Now, when we get into describing measurements, we find that often, the measurement is very large or very small. So we use Greek prefixes to help in the description of a number. So if we look at maybe a table here, we could have, the number of units. We could then have the Greek prefix. And then we could have in the far right the Greek prefix shorthand. So if we start at the very top, I tend to go up to the very large to begin. So if we start with 1.0 times 10 to the 18th units, or things, the Greek prefix for this is exa, which equals capital E. So this would be equal to 1.0 exa units, depending on what the unit we had in the beginning. So that's how we can go through these different Greek prefixes, is really just looking at how large of a number we're trying to describe. So if we go down by a power of 3, we end up with peta, or capital P. And so that would be 1 peta unit. We tend to see this going down by powers of 3, so that's what we see for the next. We go down to 1 times 10 to the 12th unit, so looking at still very big numbers. This would be tera, or capital T, and so this would be 1.0 tera units. You might be familiar with computer drives and things of that nature. We have now drives that are in the terabyte region, right? And that's what that tera is standing for. It's standing for the number of units. In this case, the unit is a byte in terms of how much information that particular hard drive can store. If we go down to 1 times 10 to the 9th, that's where we now have giga, or we're talking about bytes like we were with the terabyte. Now this would be gigabytes. So if I have 1,000 gigabytes, I have 1 terabyte, right? We can go up from there in value. We are talking about 1 times 10 to the 1 times 10 to the positive 6 units. Now we're looking at mega. Or a mega unit, or megabyte. And then we get to 1.0 times 10 to the third units. Right, roughly looking at, here, 1,000 units. That's when we have our kilo. Notice that this is our first lowercase symbol. So if you have a kilo of cocaine, well, you have 1,000 grams of cocaine, and you are probably in for a lot of trouble. So that's the top end. These are really kind of the large numbers. Here is where we have, our base unit without any type of Greek prefix. And so now we're going on to the smaller side of units. So if I have 0.1 units, well, then that is a deci, or smaller d, or a deci unit. Decimeter, decigram, what have you. If we go to the next level, we end up with centi. Such as centimeter. And then if we go one step further, now we're talking about, 1.0 times 10 to the negative third units. That is a milli. Or a milliunit, like millimeter. And now we start to go down in thirds or powers of 3, just like we were going earlier in terms of above the base unit. So we have this notion of now 1.0 times 10 to the negative 6th. This is micro. Micro kind of has this funky U looking thing. A mu. That's what it's called. So that's micro. We then go a little bit smaller. 1 times 10 to the negative 9th. Now we're talking about nano. You might have heard of nanobots or nanotechnology, nano wires, nano breweries. That's all just talking about how small of a value they are. And then we can keep going smaller to pico. And then to 10 to the negative 15th, which is femto. A lot of observation laser techniques are getting into femtoseconds, looking at describing reactions in very small time intervals. And now on the opposite end of the spectrum of 10 to the negative 18th, we have atto. And so that would be an atto unit. So that is the list of basic Greek prefixes that helps us to describe measurements that we will be taking of matter. Also, this table is a way to convert between one type of Greek unit and another type of Greek unit, and we'll be looking at practicing that quite shortly.